Hello, MagMod community. How are you guys today? We are here with an awesome photographer, Cami Grudzinski. We love her here at the MagMod offices, and we love her work. So we decided to bring her on, and for your guys' benefit, to have her tell you about how she shot some of her images, how she uses MagMod, and just so you guys can ask her some questions, and hopefully I'll be able to get those all asked, and she can get them all answered, and kind of go from there and talk a little bit about her. So welcome, Cami. Thank you for joining us today.
Yay, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So, Cami, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Like, what kind of photography do you do? How long have you been doing it? Give us a little bit of information.
So, I'm a wedding photographer based in Florida. I'm originally from Brazil. I've been shooting weddings exclusively for about 3 years, and I started actually as a park photographer at Disney.
Nice. Awesome. And how many weddings have you shot this year?
I don't know. I'm lost. I know in November I shot 14. So,
How many in December, in
in
November?
November 14.
14.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
I don't
three a
know the
week.
year.
It's more than three a week. How'd you do that?
I don't know how I do it. I can feel it though. It hurts.
I bet. I bet. Wow. I don't think my feet would make it through 14 weddings in a month.
Right.
They'd revolt and have a revolution against me and not do anything. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to get up.
I try not to think about it, just get it done, But
Wow.
I think the first one is easy on the weekend, the second is easy, and then the third one is the one that I don't want to get up. Once I start, it's very, very fine. Like I have
Oof.
fun and I keep going, and then when I get home, I can barely leave my car. But but I love
Wow.
it. I'm weird.
How many days does it take you to recover after that third one in a week?
I don't think you'll recover. You just keep going. There's
You
no
just
time
keep
to
going.
recover. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about why you love Magma, Cami, and like how you first kind of got introduced to the product, what you love about it, and why you started using it, and how it's kind of helped shape and define your photography.
So I love using lights. Most of my work is done outdoors. Most of my weddings are outdoors. I would say 80 to 90% of the time I'm outside in Florida. So I have to deal with all sorts of light conditions. And having MagMod make everything a lot easier. So whenever I'm dealing with, let's say, wind that I wouldn't be able to use a large modifier, I can use MagMods. Whenever you'll see when I'm showing your images, I'm very often cloning out my light stands or my assistant. So if I have a lot of texture on the background, using a smaller modifier helps me save a lot on editing time also because it's a very small area that I have to retouch. Um, if I'm shooting indoors, I love the ability to just very quickly and very easily modify my light, fixing color or also using my grid to narrow and not have spill all over the walls. Usually large modifiers become a little bit more challenging to control that.
Awesome. No, that's perfect. We love that. Let's jump into some images here and like, tell us a little bit about it. So we got this first image here of this couple on the beach. So to
Yes,
give us a little bit of backstory about it, what you were going for, and then maybe tell us, where you set your lights. I think you have some BTS for our viewers
I
today, so
do.
maybe we'll show them how the scenes are set
Yes.
up, and then just kind of talk a little bit about how you
Hmm.
lit them, why you lit them, and walk through your process with us.
Sounds good. So, it's a lot of people here. They come from different states. For example, this couple from Ohio chasing the Florida sunsets. So sunsets are overdone in Florida. It's true. But for me, it's very important to be able to capture it and capture it with the real colors, the real texture, the clouds in the sky. So if you shoot a sunset with natural light, you're probably going to lose a lot of that color. So I like to use light. I try to keep a good balance between that exposure and also my light so it doesn't look too dark, too dramatic. I like to keep a little bit softer like this one. And I picked images that I could show you guys exactly where my light was. Because when I was learning, I would hear people talking about, oh, their light is camera left. But the thing is, when you're learning, you don't even sometimes put two and two together to know how far left, where left, what you're using. So here you go. I'm gonna put this here. There you go. That's my assistant. She's holding AD 200, right? Is that the name that evolves? And it has MagSphere and a CTO, a quarter CTO. I'm not good in remember exactly what is there, but you can see very simple. All I did on this photo was to remove her, remove the birds because they don't quite look like birds on that exposure. They're just gloves, and a tiny little bit distraction over here on the water. All right.
Nice. So talk a little bit about why you use a CTO gel, Cami. A lot of our viewers may know,
Mm-hmm.
but there may be a lot of viewers who are still kind of learning
Yes.
what CTOs do and why you use them. So
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit why you chose to use the CTO on this image.
So on this case, this day, the sunset was very orangey. It changes, right? Sometimes it's very orange. Sometimes we have different color days. The CTO helps you balance that color, it can correct or balance. So if I had used a bare flash, the flash would look a little blue or even white on their faces. So to be able to keep them warm and matching the scene, I added some color to the light. So basically, when
Nice.
you're adding a color flash, you're changing the color of the light.
Perfect.
All right.
So that's what we in our advanced gel set and with our basic kits and our professional kits,
Mm-hmm.
or not professional kit, but our advanced gels, standard gels, and our basic kits all come with a quarter, a half, and full CTOs. So for the people that still haven't quite bought in or still wondering about how those work, that's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Another great example, I think we'll show this in one of our next images, is a lot of people use those in receptions as well, just because reception halls have that. So
Yeah.
awesome. Love this image. I love how simple it is. Looks like it was super easy to create with just real
Mm-hmm.
quick single light, which is nice. And then balancing that. Talk a little bit about balancing your flash with the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's some viewers out there that are still trying to understand exactly what that means and kind of walk through that
Yeah.
process. So
So the way I see balancing is a creative option, right? If you raise your exposure, let's say if you want the scene to look a little brighter, let's say you're gonna bump up your ISO to bring the scene up to look like a brighter image, you'd probably need a little less flash, like a little less power light. If I wanted to do this more dramatic, so making the sky darker, I would probably need to bump my light a little bit more to add more contrast. Sometimes you'll see people shooting very dark sunsets. They're using a little bit more power on that flash. So basically you can shoot the same scene with different options, different settings, and it's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. It's a personal choice, and it's what's the feel that you want to give to that photo. I think it's important to match the exposure to their expression, to the amount of light. Everything should balance well together.
awesome. Love that. Let's move on to the next image. This is, I think, a reception image. And this kind of falls back
Yes.
into what I just mentioned about using CTOs during receptions and the reason why we
Mm-hmm.
would like to do that. So show us
All
that
right.
next one.
So again, I'm sure these images are images that I chose because I could show exactly where I placed the light. This is a venue where I shoot very often. It's a barn. As you can see, there's no ceiling, like an even white ceiling for me to be able to bounce beautifully. There is no back, so if I don't have a backlight, my subject would have no hairline, pretty much like, and you see here, you can see like the hair. I
Right.
don't like that. I like if it's dark, I want to make sure I can see where their heads end. So this is a setup that I tend to do with 2 or 3 lights. Um, so here's an example with 3 lights. I have a beauty dish on the side because I was using the beauty dish already for some portraits. So that's just to be quick, I just put that there.
Yep.
I have another light on the other side to add a feel and a feel. Feel. And
Fill.
on the
Fields and fill. Fill and
the other
feel.
views.
Yep.
And then on the back, which I'll show you another photo that you can see, there's also another light with the MagMod to be able to add this little hair light. Let's see. Oh, wait, right there. See, like, can you guys see over here? So
Yep.
same venue, same setup, 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights. And see that backlight over here, it's adding this. It's adding that separation to the background. This light was basically
Nice.
lighting this because let's say during speeches, sometimes they turn this way, sometimes they turn this way. So I want to make sure I can control from both sides my light. Because
Perfect.
all this venue has is the twinkle lights, which is, for me, it's not enough.
Right. And
A
did you gel
close up.
these lights at all, or did you keep them ungelled? Do you have
Yes, so
CTOs on them?
I do have quarter CTOs on them.
Nice. Perfect.
And
Love it.
I'm going to
So
show
I
you
know
a
reception.
close-up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
same setup. So now you see a close-up. So it gives some dimension also. So she's not flat. She's lit from this side. The fill on this case was on the right. The main was on the left, right? And
Right.
there's a backlight, as you can see over here on her hair.
Yes. Kind of the nice little hair light and along the
Yeah.
gentleman to her right there or our
Yeah.
left, which is awesome. Wonderful. Thanks for
All
that
right.
example. This is, I think, one of your iconic images or types of what Cami Grudzinski is known for, some of these
Yeah.
larger landscape photos. So let's head on to the next one and talk a
All
little bit
right.
about that.
So same venue. And this is it's what I love actually, MagMod the most. Whenever it's windy outside, you can see it's windy because the water is choppy. So for me to work with a larger modifier would be hard on this day. So having the MagMod makes it quite easy for my assistant. She's not fighting against the wind. Um, Here's the behind the scenes. So she's holding my light stand with Mag Sphere. If you look over here, the light's a little orangey because I did add quarter CTO. I love adding a quarter CTO pretty much on everything. I did remove a videographer from here. Here's the venue owner. She helps me a whole lot during wedding days. So my exposure was pretty much this out of camera. All I do is open my shadows a little bit more. And I removed the fountain, I removed the little things from the blueberry field, and I removed everybody. And this
Nice.
is the final image.
And I think you have another image, not with us today, but I think these same trees where I think, are they in between the trees, I think, in the
Yeah,
front center?
so
Is that right?
I think
Nice.
you guys used on the blog
We did,
to
yes,
advertise.
yes.
So it's the same
So,
thing, same setup. The difference is actually a lot easier for me is that the my assistant is holding the light behind the tree, so I don't have to retouch it.
you don't have to
A
retouch it.
smaller modifier, I do have a example of that, hides behind trees very well, so I don't have to retouch anything. Um, it is it's a choice for me to become more efficient because of my volume of work. So if I can hide lights behind stuff, I hide lights behind stuff, and then I'll position my couples close to whatever I'm hiding that light.
Nice.
Um,
And I love, you had mentioned you use CTO gels on a lot, and
a lot.
guys, that's a personal preference with
hmm
photographers. Some photographers like to warm up their images a little bit or just give a little
hmm
bit more of a warmy glow to their client's skin. And so the CTO or like a quarter CTO is just going to give a slight warming. We also have a straw gel, which will do the same type of thing. It's a little more of a yellow look as
hmm
opposed to the orange, but it's still same purpose. It just gives a little bit more warmth to the light, so you can kind of warm those subjects up. So Cami's using that. It's not necessary to say that you guys would have to do that exact same
mm
thing. It's a personal preference. So just so you know, the CTO is a great way to
Yeah,
add some warmth to your images, kind of give those clients just a little bit more like life in their skin tones,
yeah.
and suppose to those some pale skin there. So
I think
that's
this is
awesome.
what you say. It's very important. These are all like very personal preferences. This is how I do it. People will do different. Like the same way people use MagMod to create like those. I don't even know how people come up with that stuff. Like super creative. I love it. I look at it and I'm like, how do you? Because I try. My style is a little more natural and simple. So there's many
Right.
styles different out there. So you choose what's best, what suits your mood.
Definitely.
So
Definitely. Love that.
on my next image is pretty much the same type of scene, but the light's coming from a different angle, different direction to create the story. Same thing. So,
Nice.
so that's before, that's after.
Awesome. Now, what I love about your images, Cami, is something I see is that you do a really good job of making it look like could potentially even be a natural
hmm
ray of light that you had caught from the sun being coming through the branches in a certain area, or maybe even coming through the clouds. It doesn't necessarily scream flash, which is what I really love about your work. And it's completely different from a lot of the things we see with MagMod. We normally see that
hmm
real stark, contrasty kind of look. So it's great to see that you can create images that kind of give a little more balance, a little more natural feel to them, still
hmm
using flash, and being able to do that really simply and easily using MagMod, which is great. This beautiful image, by the way. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Awesome. Let's go on to the next one. Let's talk a little bit about
All right. So in very rare occasions, Kim is indoors.
that.
So here's a very recent wedding. We were doing outdoor stuff, and then I saw this chapel. And I was like, yes, I get to shoot indoor. So I put her over there. Love this bride, Sonia. Um, Here's what I did. That's my assistant holding flash with a grid. And on this case, because the lights indoors were very orange, I'm pretty sure this was half or even full CTO to be able to match and she doesn't look blue.
Right. So
Because
did you
this,
balance the white balance for the orange lights? Did you adjust your Kelvin, or how'd you do that? Talk a little bit about that.
yes, I always shoot everything manual.
Okay.
Everything throughout the whole day I shoot manual. And again, personal preference. I just find it easier for me to control. And I did adjust to Kelvin.
Nice.
Kelvin is when you set the temperature to whatever your liking is. I wanted to keep orange. I wanted to keep very real to the scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If you notice, this image hasn't been fully retouched, and I want to show. I don't know if it's visible on when we're sharing screen, but on the bottom over here, you see this blue. It's coming from the door that's behind me, so this would be
Uh,
the temperature that's coming from behind.
right.
So sometimes whenever we're shooting, we do encounter the situations where you have different color temperatures. So on retouching, if I decide if this goes to an album or if I decided to print this anywhere, I would probably even out or bring my saturation of that blue out to make it even.
Nice.
Um,
Let's see the final image of this again.
yeah,
I want to see that result.
yeah. So I didn't
Nice.
retouch. Yeah, I didn't. This one's I just picked to show where the light
Definitely.
was. Yeah.
No, I love that. Again, I
Um,
love the way the lights just feel like it could potentially easily be a light coming from the venue you're at, as opposed to a
mhm.
flash. Just it could easily be seen as maybe there's a window off to her right, or the camera right there that's just kind of throwing this light through, and that's what you're using, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. So,
I have another image on the same place so people see with the same setup, same settings, same power. If you're keeping the same distance from your subject, you can create a different image on the same sequence very fast. So I turn her and you see my assistant now. It's over here on the left and I just turn her face to follow the light and you have
nice.
another image.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And again, you're using a CTO and a grid on the flash, is
Hmm.
that correct?
Yes, so
Awesome.
it has a grid. Hmm.
And like Cami said, guys, the CTO here, she wanted to create a natural feel in the church, and like she mentioned, from the highlights on the pews and on the ground there, you had some blue coming in. I'm guessing
Hmm.
the door that was open had natural
Hmm.
light on the outside. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it
Yeah,
was shadow, like it was just bringing, like a
old.
cold
Right.
color to it. Yeah.
So when you adjust for a tungsten lighting, you're dropping your Kelvin down to kind of the warmer orange range, and
Hmm.
any natural light is going to be closer, or even mid-cloudy light is going to be higher on that Kelvin range in that 58 to 62 to 6400 range.
Hmm.
So when that happens, guys, is that cool light comes in and creates that blue cast that you saw in her
Hmm.
previous image. But the reason the bride stays very natural looking and the stone on the church walls looks very natural is because she adjusted her Kelvin to match the temperature of the lighting inside the church. So that's kind of an important thing to learn. Again, it's personal preference, but
Hmm.
if you want your clients to look natural in different lighting situations, really important thing to learn, whether you learn Kelvin or just use your preset settings to kind of get you in the ballpark. It will definitely elevate your game and elevate your photography to another level once you're able to learn and control that piece of your skill set.
It's like
Um,
those details, those minor things that they will scream like, and I think that's why it was important for me to show you guys unretouched images. Because
Definitely.
sometimes when you see retouched work and then you do in your camera, when you're learning, you keep fighting. I was like, why does it look different? I'm not getting it. But there is some work that goes in post-production to sharpen these things out also.
Exactly. And it makes it easier if you, and like in this case, instead of just shooting and then trying to fix everything in post, which you can do, digital age is great. Um, you're able to just kind of save you some time because you're not having to
Mm-hmm.
go and adjust and tweak, magentas and greens and things
Mm-hmm.
like that to get the perfect skin tone. Ideally, it's as close as possible on camera, and then you can focus on really creating an image and creating the image you want as opposed to just trying to get the details right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That's why I try to shoot as close as possible in camera so that in post I'm focusing on creating the image as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to fixing the details. So
Efficiency. I think people always ask me, how do I shoot the volume that I shoot? I try my best to work, to do the best work out of camera and pay attention. And that's when MagMod helps me a whole lot because I can fix things when I'm shooting and I don't have to fix later.
Right. That's perfect. Awesome. So let's go on to this next one. And I love this next image because in the behind the scenes, you'll see, guys, when it comes in. But I love how she really incorporated something that she ended up cropping out of the final image, but to make it look like it was naturally coming from these types of lights, and it was actually all artificial. So talk a little bit about that for us, Cam.
All right. So this is a dress shot. I don't love detail shots. I don't love hanging dress shots.
Does anyone love hanging dress shots? I don't know.
Oh,
I remember as a beginning photographer, I used to remember like, oh, I love dress shots. I love it. Let's do this. Let's be crazy. And now, as you get, and maybe it's not everyone, but for me, as I've gotten more experienced, it's like one of the things I loathe. I do it because I know if I don't, I'll get asked for it. But if I had the choice to cut anything out, I'd probably be like, I'm not going to shoot a dress shot. Like, no, I'd rather do other things. So
balancing rings, I think it's
yeah,
it's
balancing
the my
rings
day. I can't
gum
balance
and
rings.
yeah, losing rings in avocado fields or down little cracks. I'm like, no. So
So this was actually this was a good for me. This was fun because I wanted to actually add more to this story. It wasn't just a dress shot. I was able to add the flower girl, her shoes, the flowers, her veil, and the bridesmaids out to the same story. But I think to play a little bit with our minds and how we see, I wanted to play with light a little bit more. So my viewer eye would travel, So instead of making an obvious lighting choice to me, to my work would be pretty much just light the dress with a grid or something. And put everything else in dark. I actually wanted some light on my other subjects of this story. So what I did, I let the lights of the room play its role, which it's natural. I ended up cropping on the final one because I felt they were distracting. They were bringing the eyes to the light, and I didn't want that. But my assistant is holding the grid and the flash right over the dress. And see like how there was light coming from the windows, like spotted over here, spotted over there. What I did on the final version, I actually just added a little bit more to the middle of these dresses and a little bit to the flowers and to the shoes to add those elements to the story. And again, this is the final version.
If you see, guys, the final version, the dress is lit with a flash, but it looks supernatural because it looks like it could easily have come from those can lights above the dress. So she just did a beautiful job of making it seem like it's just a natural result of the lighting in the room and not necessarily adding additional lighting. And I love the story you're telling here. It's definitely, I can imagine. I love how the dress is on the mannequin, so you can kind of picture if it was a bride there, just kind of finalizing a little bit before she gets ready. So it's a wonderful story you're telling, and just adding the light in there did a fantastic job and super beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Awesome. All right, let's move on to these next ones. And I love these next ones because you use a product that we don't see often, and I think these are great examples of how you can use this product to create some really amazing images. So talk a little bit about what you used for this and what your thought process was for this.
So again, this is an unretouched image. This was a challenging wedding for me because again, it was like all indoors, but it was inside a production studio. Nothing was wedding-like. Nothing was really photogenic in the sense where you would expect from a wedding venue. Because it was a production studio, I did have this entrance wall that had pointing to stage 1, stage 2. So I had to come up with something, a concept that would actually tell the story of a wedding in a production studio. So I was able to use my snoot. And here's my assistant holding the snoot and illuminating the shoes. So I created that shot, and then I turned the shoes around and something like this. I do like the shot that includes the stage sign, because it does look like a spotlight on the shoes.
Yeah, I love it. Like when you showed me this image, I loved how you were able to incorporate the whole production studio stage and then using the snoot to get that really spotty, kind of hard-edged, narrow light to look as if the shoes are on a stage and about to sing a song or something. I don't know. Or dance a jig, I guess. But it definitely looks like there's someone holding a spotlight on them.
Hmm.
because they're the star of the show, which is amazing. So beautiful incorporation into your background and your environments. And guys, this is a great example of turning your environment or your location to your advantage.
Hmm.
A lot of us would have probably been like, a production studio, what am I going to do here? But being able to know your lights and know your gear and know the kind of results that it's going to give you allowed Cami to create images that were cohesive with the area she's in. You could easily see that as an image that would be in a production studio or on a stage, and just fits really really well with the theme of the wedding. So fantastic job, Cami.
Yay.
And yeah, if you guys don't know your products and don't know your gear, it's going to be more difficult for your mind to get into that way of thinking. And Cami knew that the snoot would create this hard edge light, and so she was able to use that to her advantage. Um, do you remember what it looks like? You had it set on like almost fully collapsed, but not quite. Is that right?
I'll get back.
Or almost fully extended, like maybe the third?
And it
Yeah,
took some trial and
one,
error.
two.
Believe me, I
Yeah.
still play with stuff. I still sometimes think I'm gonna get a result and it goes downhill. And then sometimes I drive my assistant crazy because I'm changing 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters. And she's like, oh goodness, like, what are you doing? But at the end, just stick to your guts and
Yeah,
get it done. Don't regret later,
definitely.
so move it and get it done.
Exactly. And that's another great point is, Cami says she still tries things and experiments. And again, I think as some of the themes that we've seen throughout some of these, prior Howard Shotets from the people we featured is, that don't be afraid to try things. You're
Hmm.
never going to realize what you can create, or, happy accidents can occur that are accidents the first time, but once you figured out, oh, wait, now it's repeatable. So this is something you can add to your repertoire for a later time
Hmm.
because it happened on accident because you were trying stuff and it worked, and then you realize, oh wait, this worked, and now I can do this again, or I know how to do it again, and now you've added an additional skill to your bag of tricks, which just increases your value as a photographer, increases your experience to your clients, increases the confidence your clients have in you. So don't be afraid to try, or don't be afraid to fail. You don't grow unless you're failing. That's what I like to say. So
Absolutely.
awesome. Cool. Love that. Thanks again, Kevin. So let's go on to this next one. And what I love about this is, tell us a little about this, Cami, and why this was maybe a little bit different from what you normally do.
All right. I don't do stuff like this. And this client, she's a wedding client. This was her engagement session, and she really wanted something whimsical. She asked if I could incorporate something that would make it whimsical, and she wanted to shoot on a forest. I don't usually do, as you see, my work tends to be very natural, easy, so I don't have to do a lot of post-production work after. But I was up to the challenge. I'm like, yes, you know what? It can be fun. It's good to step out of your comfort zone to learn new things. And we went to this forest. What I did, this is the exposure of that image. I brought two lights. There's one light on the back. Both lights have the same setup. They have a mag sphere and a quarter CTO. The other light is behind this tree. So as I said before, for me, it was easy to hide a small modifier on this scene. So I wouldn't have to rebuild a lot of these trees in post-production. And took a shot. I knew what I could accomplish after in post-production. So that was it. I just darkened a little bit the back, cloning to close out the trees a little bit more. And added the magic, the glow, a little bit of the sparkles. And it was a beautiful sequence. She loves it because she starts the scene on her own, chasing for something. She finds her partner, and then they are together. And at the end, we're just playing where they're kind of kissing off in the background. The lantern now it's by itself, but everything was able to shoot on the sequence with the same two lights set up.
Nice. Now explain to me, so what, with the light behind the tree, talk a little bit about what you're hoping to achieve with that. Were you hoping to just kind of light that lantern so that in post you could make it kind of had a natural feel like light was coming off of the lighting hitting her? Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. The main light was actually to be able to, whenever she was holding the lantern, to give the feel that the lantern was illuminating her face. So you can see, well, you can see it's coming from here, right?
Right.
And what I did after, she turned her face a little bit more towards the light, and it gives you, the illusion, even though it's not pretty much the same direction, but it gives you the
Right.
illusion that she's getting lit by the lantern. as long as we have a reference point, I think it makes sense for our brain to make, even though of course there's post-production and it's not a natural shot, there's some composite, there's the sparkles, it kind of gives you the feel that she was actually really lit by the lantern.
Definitely. Awesome. No, I love that. I love how you're able to use the products that you had in your bag to think outside of what you normally do and create an image for the client at the client's request that you wouldn't normally necessarily create. So using the lights in a way that you don't normally use them is, it's awesome that you have some tools to be able to say, okay, I think I can do this, and I have the tools to create what I'm looking for. You know, when we shoot with large modifiers, which I love, but again, there's some limitations to them. You can't always necessarily create what you're looking for because it's not going to mimic a small candlelight, whereas, you know, a grid or a sphere is a smaller source, so it's going to create a little more of a natural type of light that something like a candle bouncing off of a reflector in a lantern would create. And so it's awesome that you were able to think through that struggle or outside of the box and create that image. So it's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about, I know you had created a kind of a personal series, and we don't have any of those images, but I'd love if you could talk to us, any of the photographers that are up and coming or learning or still kind of learning their craft. You know, talk to us, tell us a little bit about what would you recommend to them in regards to continuing to grow and not getting discouraged. So talk a little bit about how you grew and your progression to get where you are.
My main thing, and it is to this day, is actually investing in education. The hard thing is that there's so many educators and there's so many different styles and there's so many different people doing different things. I think you have to find what resonates with you. So first you have to find that kind of work that really speaks to you. The style. There, you know, everybody says, how do you find your style? For me, it was when I'm shooting and when I get home and you get the tinglings or you get that excitement or the adrenaline, even when you look at the back of the camera that you created something that brings you pleasure, then you know that you're close to your style. You know, if you're doing something just because it's your business or it's your job or you're getting paid for it, you're not quite creating that one yet. So I had mentors in the past that had told me to stay away from the scenic images or the little people, big scene. And I love that. You know, I love it. And to be able to print a 40-inch print of a beautiful scene, and then you're going to understand where the little couple actually looks stunning on a 40-inch print. So that resonated with me. Large prints, big wall pieces resonate with me. And not every client of mine wanted a close-up of their faces on a 40-inch print. So for me, large prints are it. Like scenic portraits is what I like. So even though some people will tell you not to do something, follow your heart. Once you start finding the instructors that are teaching that, or they're not taking your motivation away, not being negative towards what you want to do, and pushing you forward, then you know that you found your real mentors. You know that you found the real people you want to learn from.
Definitely. Nice. Awesome. Perfect. Well, Cami, I think that wraps up our How I Shot It today. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I'm sure people will make comments on the video on Facebook, and you know, if you have a chance and they have any questions and you see that they've asked questions, we'd love for you to jump in and answer those for them. And if you guys haven't checked out, if you don't have a subscription or if you want to go, Cami was featured in Rangefinder magazine. I think this month's issue. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. A little bit about her story and how WPPI, which is one of obviously a major conference, kind of helped change her career. Was that right?
Absolutely, changed my life. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, if you guys have a sec or have a subscription, make sure you check that out and give Cami some love with that article. And we love her here at MagMod, and we super appreciate everything she does for us. And we're excited that you had a chance to come on with us today and talk a little bit to our community and give a little bit of your insight. So again, thank you so much, Cami. We appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So awesome. Thanks, guys. Hey, this will be in the community. We'll also be putting up in YouTube later. So if you missed it, check us out on YouTube. We'll post the link in the community, and you guys will get to check it out. Thanks, community. Guys, have a great day.